Welcome to the very first episode of the AppsFlyer Leadership Series, the Power Series. This is the Power Hour, and the topic for today is Women Leaders of the Future. Hi, I'm Ritu, and I've recently joined the AppsFlyer team as Country Manager for India. I'm very excited to meet all of you, and thank you very much for being a part of our first episode of the Thought Leadership Series, the Power Hour, Women Leaders of the Future. We're very excited to kick the series off with a strong woman panel and to hear your stories of how you all have navigated your way to become successful leaders. And on that note, let me introduce our panelists for today. We have with us Megha Agarwal from Meesho, who is the CXO for growth for their business. Megha has held several leadership positions, and her expertise lies in growth strategy, branding, strategic communication, and analytics. Very excited to have you on to our show, Megha, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Likewise, Ritu. Very excited to be here.
We also have Divya Dixit with us, the powerhouse behind Alt Balaji. She leads the marketing and revenue efforts at Balaji. Divya comes with a rich experience of 20 plus years across industries like digital, broadcasting, telecom, and music. Through her efforts, she has helped create sustainable businesses through rejuvenation of brands, consumer lifetime value journeys, creating revenue opportunities, product designing, and many more. Divya, this is very interesting, and we have a similar background with respect to broadcasting and telecom.
Always good to meet like-minded people, and I'm very, very glad to be here.
Next, we have Archana Bora, who is the Director, Global Business Group Scaled and SMB as part of the India leadership team at Meta. Her role reinforces Facebook family of apps commitment to scaling young and growth-oriented businesses, thus driving economic value and employment in the country. She also helps foster entrepreneurship by working with diverse partners and venture capitalists. With more than 22 years in creating, building, and monetizing web and mobile products, she is committed to transforming businesses in India to win. Her unwind vehicle is Lucid Ramblings 2.0, a blog series where she writes on joys and failures of being a corporate woman, the sometimes awkward balance of work and life, and her insatiable appetite for all things Bollywood. Archana, these are two of my favorite topics, women and Bollywood.
I said, doesn't get any better than that, right? As good as it gets, women in Bollywood. Absolutely. And we're not going after any bias here, are we?
Absolutely not. And moving on, joining us today is Shehnaz Bapuji, the Chief Marketing Officer at Shopmatic. Before building the Shopmatic brand, Shehnaz spent 20 plus years at Ogilvy, where she was responsible for building brands across various categories. With deep experience across B2B and B2C segments, Shehnaz set up the B2B practice group for Ogilvy India. Shehnaz has an excellent track record in expanding new business and creating long-lasting client relationships. In her free time, Shehnaz teaches advertising and marketing at Mount Carmel College in Bangalore and is a licensed Reiki master. Again, very interesting, Shehnaz. I've learned Reiki 15 years ago and I'm super fascinated by it.
Thank you for the lovely intro.
Problem. Next, we also have with us Mridmay Oak, Vice President, Category and Growth at Dunzo. She heads the pre-order charter for the Dunzo B2C business, including functions across category, growth, merchandising, user lifecycle management, and fraud prevention. She has led large global cross-functional business teams across marketing, category management, growth, analytics, and digital transformation in various sectors, namely retail, manufacturing, and pharma. She is passionate about building and scaling B2C businesses to create a world-class user experience. She is a trained Kathak dancer, and in her free time, you will most likely find her trying out a new dance sequence and routine or creating a travel plan to explore another new destination. Great to have you with us, Mridmay, and I'll let the cat out of the bag I too am a trained Kathak dancer. So, wow. I really don't talk about it, but this is really cool.
Thanks for the lovely intro. And like finding 7 great women in like one call and having a co-trained Kathak dancer is amazing. Like looking forward to the next hour that we are going to have together.
Awesome. So let's just jump right in. My first question is for you, Divya. Tell us about your career path and some of those key moments that have shaped your journey so far.
I can I be very honest? Most of my career path, while have been superb for me, have actually happened by accident. It's not that I genuinely planned it. But let me say this with absolute, candid thoughts, that the only thing I actually really planned was my MBA and my journey into retail, because retail was the sunrise industry at that point of time. And I really, really thought I could make a career over there because I'm a people's person. I enjoy interacting with people, right? So the only true thing that happened for me by plan was retail, where I spent about good 8.5 years. I built brands like Rolls House and Barista. And then I moved into broadcast, which is, again, I mean, just because I was honestly bored of retail. And I moved into broadcast. I worked with people like Sony. I worked with people like Star. I worked with people like QTV. And then I think an ex-boss of mine from Barista called me saying, hey, Tata's is launching a new telecom brand. And, would you like to come and launch the brand with us? And that's how my journey into telecom actually happened. So I launched the brand Tata Docomo. From there on, I moved into digital and I never looked back. In fact, I think one high point of my life, and I'll give you the high points, like I've been lucky enough to jump across industries, have been able to make success stories out of there. I've launched a broadcast channel. I've launched a telecom brand. I have launched a digital business, which is Z5, and then I have moved into all to create a sustainable business out of it. So these are, of course, anybody would say as a career, great milestone, high points. I think for me, the high point was when I was moving into digital back in, after launching Tata Docomo, I was moving into music and digital streams. A very senior broadcast person told me, oh, digital is just a bubble. You're making a grave career mistake and, you're going to have a tough time. I can assure you of that. It just gives me a high to prove him wrong. So, and not in a bad way. It's the kind of a high or a career milestone, you would like to talk about when you're able to prove people that they've been wrong in their assessment. I think what I would say the highest point in my career has been is learning and understanding that never say no to anything ever, because you never know. If you don't take a chance, if you don't take a punch, you would never know how things would work out. And I moved into digital sometime in 2012, right? This country wasn't even digitally equipped. We were still struggling between 2G and 3G. So it was a very, very bold move in my mind. And that was the high point for me, to take that bold move, take a punt with my career. And I was at a senior position, right? So everybody said, oh my God, you're going to leave, telecom and broadcast, which are on a high right now, to move into a absolutely nascent industry. For me, that was the high point, to be able to do this journey and come to a point, where today OTT is the mainstay entertainment field. You look at music, you look at sports, you look at news, you look at mainstream entertainment, originals, catch up. Everything is there on digital, everything. Our lives are ruled by the apps, right? I think that was the high point for my career, honestly.
Wow, awesome journey. And, I love the risk-taking ability. And, one day we must sit over coffee and drinks and discuss about how, I've jumped industries as well. So it just completely resonates. So thanks, Divya, for sharing this. What about you, Archana? Tell us about your career path and those key moments that have shaped your journey.
And that feels like, I hate to be called out as the person with more than double-digit years of experience, right? It makes you feel fossilized right in the beginning of the conversation. But yeah, I started my journey with digital as early as 1999. That's when people could make the difference out between hardware and software. And my grandmother would define my career as computer mein kaam karti hai. And I used to work for the internet. So I started with NDTV Convergence, pretty much set it up as a company, took it to funding. Then went on to Reliance, pretty much set up their online business with Ad Labs, and then post that to Times. Worked as the CEO for Times for about 8 years, set up their digital entities as well as a lot of their print business that was looking at going digital. Then to Amazon, took it to about 1 million sellers. Complete mental model shift in every way, right? Like you work for the media and then you land at Amazon. I cannot tell you what a world of 800 metrics every week looks like. So I think that was a big one for me in terms of my mental model switch, my learning. How do you look at businesses? How do you look at building trillion-dollar businesses, right? So there is one mindset which says, 1,000 crores is a big number. And there is a completely different mindset that takes you to the $1 trillion, right? So I think that was a big mind switch that happened. And then from there on to Meta, I think all of these journeys have been exceptionally close to my heart for the reason that they came out of a very deliberate intent to be in the digital space. Right? I don't enjoy any other space as much as I enjoy this, right? From the start, I remember we would be ecstatic when we did 1 million page views. No one really cares about page views in today's day and time, right? I remember digital, we had a total of 80 clients. And so if all 80 kind of advertised with you, you thought, array, you were just hitting it out of the park, right? To a world now where there are just millions of businesses and digital's become a way of living, right? But more importantly, I think through all of this, it's interesting to know that if you stay close to your dream, it's real. I didn't imagine a career in digital. I think a chance meeting with Prannoy, which is Prannoy at NDTV, kind of made it real. He said, do you want to start this? We're looking at a digital and invest foray, right? And that was the start. And I don't think there's ever been any looking back. I think I wouldn't gloat over what went well. I think lots of learning through the process and lots of failures. Like I failed like hell, like crap. Everything from going out and talking about being a television channel and wanting to do digital was the first point of failure, right? Because media planners always thought, yeah, TV karenge, yeah, print karenge, maximizer kharidenge. Like this whole switch of like, what is it to be in the digital world to now, where, you have some of the largest advertisers talking about performance and branding being intertwined and not being different. And the funnel is no longer this breakup of 3 things that pehle, you'll do awareness, then you'll do consideration, then you'll do conversion. Like get real, you have to do everything all at the same time. And there are just brands coming by the dozen. So I think it's been an amazing journey. In that process, I also turned mother, which I thought was my biggest, mental model shift again. The fact that I could invest in family while investing in career and not feel like dramatically guilty about it. I thought was a big win. I still do my work because I want to do it and not because like I'm doing some supreme sacrifice for anybody. It's what I do. It's what I love doing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Awesome. Don't worry about the fossil part. You're sitting across someone who also comes. So we'll have a discussion about that. I remember coming to AppsFlyer and saying, I feel like fossil. And I'm like, this is such a young company. And how did they even get in here? But, so I think just call it, aging gracefully and having wonderful years of experience behind us. I think that is a more, more hands-on thing to say. But yeah, great. Thanks. Thank you, Archana. To our next question for Mrinmay, can you name the one person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a leader, and maybe someone who has been a mentor, and why? And how did this person actually impact your life?
Sure. So I've actually been very lucky. Like I've had great managers and mentors, and they have actually shaped me to be the professional that I am. But specifically in one of my very early parts of my career, I had a woman manager. And what I learned from her in terms of not only breaking the bias, but in terms of also going and chasing lofty goals, being able to shamelessly make contributions to meetings without, like, you have nothing to lose kind of a motto. So Richa Pai, who is currently the CEO of Allen Solly, and I would go ahead and name her. And she's, I think, been the most influential mentor and manager I have had in my life. Obviously, she came from a background which was more FMCG retail. So key things that I actually picked up from her, which went on a long way now to what I do, is around like building really great collaborative relationships with stakeholders to drive negotiation and decision making, especially in spaces like FMCG, right, where you're like talking to the HULs and the Cokes of the world. For them, you are most likely a very small part of their business, but to be still able to drive what you want. And because it was more a B2C side of the business, but again, retail, which is heavily male dominated, especially on the operations side of it. And this is obviously like 12, 13 years ago when quick commerce did not exist, right? Like retail was essentially walking into a store and talking to people and getting them to help you like load your trolleys and bags with shopping bags with what you wanted. And basically being able to make these decisions on trade-off between what's good for the business and what's good for the user, right? So if you go to a user and ask them what is it that impacts you the most, they'll tell you price. And that's going to be there across, right? Like India is that economy which has great units but not great unit economics. It's one of those economies. So that like these things and these trade-offs that you learn to make if you learn to make them really early in your career, I think it makes a lot of impact in the way you then start viewing businesses and making these decisions at a large scale and across like global and cross-functional teams. So I actually credit a lot to her, and like especially a woman manager, since I got a strong woman role model in my life very early in my career, I think it helped me a lot, and I wish that a lot more women can get that.
No, I agree with you. I think, as they call it, the sisterhood
Yes.
has to kind of come up, and there have to be more women mentors and role models, etc. And I think somewhere the responsibility lies with us as leaders as well. So yeah, I firmly believe in that. So yeah, thanks. Very, very inspiring. You're up next, Megha. What has been your biggest learning opportunity as a leader and why?
Sure. So I would say the biggest learning opportunity for me has been leading growth for Meesho. So just for the context, Meesho is now one of the largest e-commerce players in India. Growth encompasses thinking about the user from an end-to-end perspective. So thinking about branding, thinking about acquisition, thinking about getting them activated on the app, engagement, retention, etc. So I think the timing of this move was particularly interesting, which makes it the most challenging time. I started leading growth for Meesho about 2 years back, which was literally the middle of the pandemic, or the start of the pandemic. Actually, now I won't say middle, now that we know it's been going on forever. But start of pandemic. So I think the uncertainty in the business was huge. People's morale, team spirit was at all-time low because of uncertainty. Meesho in general, the team was quite lean because we were still like a $750 million company instead of the $5 billion company we are now. And I was a complete generalist. My background is 5 years in consulting with Carney, about 4 years in global markets as an investment banker. And then suddenly, one fine day, I decided that, okay, I want to do something different and challenging. And I started leading growth. So I think when you, in your mind, when you feel that odds are stacked against, you also kind of rise up to the challenge and you push yourself. So I feel that that has been the biggest opportunity where I've grown as a leader. I think there are a few things that have stayed with me. The number one is what Archana was also mentioning, failing and failing badly. And realizing and learning from those, I think, has been one of the most important things for me in ensuring that I shape up as a leader, because that's how you really learn, to be honest. Second, I realized that team is everything. We are as strong or as weak as our teams are. So investing in right talent, mentoring and coaching them, and just being there for them, I think is the most important thing. Third, thinking big, thinking 10x is important, and I think everybody talks about it, but stopping there, I think, is not something which many people talk about, that you should not stop there. You rally people around only when you kind of help them in seeing the path to those 10x goals or opportunities. Um, I mean, you can be 50% correct. There's no marks for getting it right, but having some pathway actually fills people with this motivation and energy and ambition that they can actually do it. So I feel that these have been some of the things that I've really learned as a leader, and has shaped me as a person more than anything else.
Awesome. Very relatable story. And I think I love the whole humility of, accepting failure, because without that, it's not going to, I mean, we're not going to grow as even humans. I mean, leaders are next in line. So completely, very, very inspiring. Thanks for that, Megha. Archana, would you like to comment on what your biggest learning opportunity as a leader has been and why?
I'll let Megha go first, or you want me to jump in?
I
You have
just
just
completed,
finished.
Archana.
You just wrapped,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard you say Mega Archana. So yeah, no. So I think the learning opportunities have been severe, but I think the one thing, and I completely resonate with what Ritu was saying. Right, the team is everything. Like if not anything else, I think in Amazon we used to talk about this principle. I'm sure you've heard of the leadership principles, but hire and develop the best, right? Get the right people behind the right role and functions. Get people who are smarter than yourself. I think that for me is the biggest learning, and run the team like you would want to be run. I sometimes feel in this whole journey that we've seen many media companies and many platform companies take. There is a very evoluted style of urbanized management, which is hands off. It's learned. It comes on the back of a lot of trust, and it comes on the back of the fact that people necessarily will work with you without you having authority. And therefore, the ability to manage ambiguity without authority, I think, is my biggest learning. You don't need to be in control. Drop that act. You don't need to turn up Superwoman every day of your life. Very tough not to do, because it's very natural for us women to say, I got this, right? Like, I have the answers. I know how to run this. I'll do the number. Yes, you will. But it is equally important to not just make people feel a part of it, but also be a part of it. So, as much as you can, merge the lines that sometimes organizations create in the name of hierarchy. Merge those lines, and I think it's a brilliant journey. That, I think, is my biggest learning. And the second one is cliched but true, which is as a woman leader, it's important to show your teeth. Like, we very easily fall into that trap of saying, I agree. Surely agree, right? If you want to. But there's a very interesting two lines which says, Shama Shobhati us bhujang ko jiske paas garal ho, which means you have to show your fangs sometimes. Do not be embarrassed of it, because you're seeing fangs all over the place. No one's stopping you. You got to the table because you earned it. You didn't get to the table because there was a diversity quota. And the more you thrive in that, as much as you stay humble, I think is my biggest learning. Very tough to get there, but I still struggle with it sometimes in some sessions. But I think that's my biggest learning.
Awesome. Shehnaz, would you like to comment in terms of your biggest learning opportunity? Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to just tell Archana not to feel worried about the fossil world, because 27 years in, and I don't know if I feel like a fossil, but yeah, we've got the experience, so it's okay.
Absolutely.
My entire career, actually, I feel has been a learning opportunity. And I know it sounds a little hackneyed, but 20 years in Ogilvy, doing a lot of things with a lot of people, a lot of brands, you learned a lot. But I think one of the most predominant qualities that I picked up from Ogilvy was to actually lead from the front. And I know it's slightly contrarian to what perhaps Archana was referencing, but there's this fine line between helping teams grow and also leading from the front. Sometimes you need to lead from the front just so that they get the idea of how to do it. Because if you always leave people in the deep, then they swim around, you waste a lot of time. And I think in this, communication, marketing, advertising, whatever world, everybody is extremely impatient to get stuff going very quickly because you don't have time. You're at any given point in time handling 100 things. And so there's this temptation to jump in and do it, but do it so that others learn, so that the next time you don't have to, go down that path and, replicate that process. That was one. I think in the recent times, one of the biggest learning opportunities as a leader has been to join Shopmatic as a startup. Okay, after 20 years of earning the grades and whatever at Ogilvy, you took a decision to join a startup which no one knew about. You were like literally mapping your life from a blank canvas, and trying to build a brand without the multi-million dollars that you were used to spending for your brands or for clients that you worked with. And I think that, when you are forced to actually think much more about how to get similar results without necessarily spending all that money. I mean, you really need to be nimble, and you really need to do some kind of magic to make it work. And the effort is so much harder because you have to be able to pull off stuff without the dollars, without the large teams that you were possibly used to. But you still know that you signed up because you want this brand to really succeed. Today we've had, 1 million customers sign up with us in the 6 years that we've been around, 6.5 years. And I mean, the going's good. It's fun. It's exciting. I think everyone should join a startup at some point in time in their lives. And I'm not saying this only to this panel here, but generally speaking, because it's like a real leveler. You need to be humble, you need to be grounded, you need to roll up your sleeves and do the stuff yourself. Throw the trash out of the bin if required, clean the space if required, be head cook, bottle washer, whatever it takes. But be really single-minded about getting that result. And yeah, I think that's what's like keeping me going, and it's been an very exciting innings.
Great. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think being grounded and being nimble and coming from a rich corporate experience and being used to the bells and whistles, as they say, and then, yeah, it could
Yeah.
be right on the other side of the graph. So awesome. Thanks for sharing. Um, so my next question, Divya, is for you. So while work-life integration is a goal for all of us, irrespective of gender, the pandemic induced work from home reality with blurred lines has revealed that inequities in responsibilities shouldered by men and women. What has been your approach to striking this ideal balance?
Um, okay. See, I'll be very frank. We continued working in the office. For us, it was a break in between. So I would say pandemic has been equally harsh on everybody, right? It's not about women or men, first of all. It's about the fact that as an individual, you're going through a lot of changes. You're seeing a lot of changes in the world around you. The consumer footprint is changing. How you're marketing the product professionally, right? How you're marketing the product is changing. How you're bringing in your revenue deals, how you're bringing in your commercial models, everything changed. So that's part one. So you're adapting at multi levels. You're adapting as a professional, as a person. You're used to a structured day, right? You get up in the morning, you work out, you do your home chores, you run to the office, you get that sorted, you come back. So there is a beginning and end of the day very clearly, right? However, in pandemic, that all changed. You're continuously probably, in fact, it became harsher because people assumed you're at home. There is, so much more you can contribute because people actually, I actually have this. People have actually called me at 12:30, 1 in the night, emailed me expecting immediate rewards and all that. So all that, is a basic adaptation of the professional model. So I think also I'm one of those people who doesn't really think much. I am what I call myself a doer, right? This needs to be done. This is the call of the moment or call of the hour. Let's get this sorted first. Then we'll discuss how to make this better or how to improve the process better. But let's not just sit and think and waste too much time, because while I'm all for processes, and I'm all for the right path, the right approach, um, I also am a person who believes in the fact that you have to find solution. Here's a problem. What's my solution? How do I address this immediately? How do I get this done? I will consider better processes, better approaches if this is a recurring issue. But let me first get this sorted right now, right? So, like I said, it was an adaptation at various levels. I'm sure it was an equal adaptation for my husband, for my child, right? To see me constantly through the day. So I wouldn't really say as a woman, I had to adapt so much. As a professional, as a person, I had to adapt a lot. The globe was changing. The globe was adapting, right? So we all went through that change. I think what's come out is the fact that as a professional, you should be able to trust your team. You should be able to trust your employees, that wherever they are, as long as the work is getting done, it should not be a problem. What time is he coming to the office? What time is he leaving the office? Is he getting the job done? Is he getting the job done in the right timelines? Is he getting the job done correctly? I think those are the kind of issues that got addressed at a global level, not only India more so, because Indian employers typically have a little bit lesser trust in employees, I feel. But at a global level, I think people realize you don't have to be physically present. I think what has actually happened is I know that there are many companies now willing to work on either a hybrid model or a complete remote model. That also allows you access to a vast talent pool, right? You're not asking people to shift to shift cities, rehabilitate where there is no possibility. Possibly you have to let go of the talent, etc. So all that is sort of now, how do I say, coming into a hybrid model, working out better. Also, it works out better for the companies, right? If your infra cost slows down, if you can still get the job done in the requisite timelines, it's time for the globe to, I think, adapt. It's time for globe to think, what are the various models I can work with? So adaptation that started at a personal and a professional level will have a ripple effect immediately. I can already see it happening across various firms. So for me, that's been the learning.
I couldn't agree more. There's been a huge paradigm shift, and we heard all of this only in software companies. So it was always okay. It was always the fortunate software companies on the West Coast, working from anywhere. You could be sitting on a beach and working from there, and it didn't matter. And suddenly it's kind of panning across the globe, as Divya, you rightly said.
Correct.
So we've got exciting times ahead. No one pushes anyone to come to work, and they're like, okay, whatever. Suddenly we've got into this flexi model, which I think is working for. Of course, it depends on the I think the demand of the business and in which sector you are. But yeah, by and large, we've learned to adapt. So I couldn't agree with you more. Mrinmay, what's your thought on it?
So I actually pretty much agree with what Divya mentioned, but from a perspective of how this played out for me, like I actually come from a family where these lines between genders, like there is no inequality, right? And pre-pandemic also, I didn't have that in my household or in my family. So maybe maybe all of us on this call are from that, lucky set of people, I would go ahead and call us, right? So we're not faced with these biases in our households. But what happened is, and I would specifically share two things. One was when the pandemic actually started, I was heading the analytics and e-commerce for Pantaloons, right? Pantaloons is a largely offline retail business with very less revenue and focus on e-commerce, right? Overnight, suddenly all stores, because only essentials had to be open across the country, like around 1,200 stores shut, and then you had to decide, like suddenly you became really important, and people don't know how to deal with teams sitting at home and working. Half the team only has desktops and not even laptops, right? That's where we were when the pandemic actually started. And then you have team members who are living in joint families in like really small homes in Mumbai with kids and in-laws, and you have to be, while you might be really lucky and don't have these problems, you have to understand that there are your teams who will be facing such issues, and you have to be respectful and be empathetic towards that, and definitely have trust on team, right? We are as strong as our teams are. I mean, as leaders, we really while we might have a great bias for action, we don't really do what we do, right? We just essentially unblock teams, give direction, make the right decisions more often than not, like have failures and embrace them and move forward, because all of our decisions are also not right. So being trusting of our teams and saying, okay, this has to get done. It's up to you how you do it, when you do it. As long, if you need my help, I am there, like collaborate and get together. So I think in that perspective, a paradigm shift in as a leader, I think we saw that happen across not only Pantaloons as an org, but in the team as well. And you could see the repercussions of it across the entire org. I also joined Dunzo in the pandemic, like Megha joined Meesho during the pandemic, and joining an org that is headquartered in Bangalore and sitting in Mumbai and not meeting anyone for a year, but heading growth and categories, like right in the cusp of its growth phase. It was hard. And my entire team actually got built then, and most of Dunzo's growth team then actually got built during the pandemic. And the ability to bring team members into an org, align them to a single goal that you want to meet, have cross-functional collaboration, right? Like for example, if a Dunzo store has to sell a thumbs up in a store, there is most likely 8 or 9 teams, starting from product to user to procurement, everyone coming together, who have most likely never seen each other's faces, right? You don't even have the ability to just make a call and say, yaar ye kar de mere liye, because that equation doesn't exist. So actually being able to build, hire, and kind of rally teams towards like driving growth and a single org goal was something that I think I learned during the way, and what I picked up in terms of ensuring online engagement, online collaboration through like we have weekly chats that are happening over like chai and like breaks in the evenings, just for team members to collaborate, get to know each other, because you're most likely not going to meet them now that they've also moved to a remote first model. I think these are two things that I really saw play out in that first year for the pandemic with me, which have stayed with me, which have been like shifts in terms of how we were dealing with our teams, how we were dealing with our orgs, and how the orgs have been dealing with such large scale hiring and growth.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing, Mrinmay. Yeah, I think the big one of the large, I think the big word which I would call the word collaborate has really sort of this environment has just brought in that whole collaboration piece, which was clearly missing. I feel, even in my years of experience, I feel that people had this comfort level of working in silos, delegating a bit. Now there's no choice, because you're not sitting, you don't have your team in front of you or anybody else, like what you meant, somebody at a remote location and not even seeing each other's faces and doing what they need to do. It's kind of brought us into a absolutely different environment. Thanks, Mrinmay. For the interest of time, I'm going to, I think the earlier format was I was asking the same questions to two of you all. I'm just going to move on with single one so that I don't want to miss Ronen's segment. I actually had to call him and block his calendar. You have to do this for me. It would be a bummer if I had to let him go. So moving on. Okay, the next one is Archana, for you. This year, Women's Day slogan is breaking the bias. What are the biases you have encountered and how have you dealt with them?
I think tons of those, but I think the biggest bias, which is a little fresher, and I heard someone talk about it, which is distributed teams actually in many ways work better than teams where you're tying people to chairs, right? It's not a good versus bad approach, but I think the one thing that at least we at Meta really push for is take the time you need, and the deliverables of the business are clear, right? So I think that's one big bias, and in my head as well, right? I haven't worked from home for 2 years. This is the first time in my career I worked from home for 2 years, and it's so real. And in every sense, I thought it gave me both flexibility, and if productivity was a metric in any capacity, I thought the teams and I kind of turned up much stronger than ever before. So I think that was one big bias that kind of has changed. And the second one, I think, is, and I repeatedly talk about it because I don't see it breaking. I hear of it repeatedly, where ambition, aggression, wanting to get things done, bias for action, are somehow always seen as traits that are very relevant for men. They are almost said in the same tonality for women, but in a very different tenor, right? So I think just that bias, I find it very hard to break. To say the same thing, saying, yeah, thodi zyada aggressive hai. What the hell does that mean? If it's a guy at the other end, what would you say? And you would say aggressive hai, and then you would put a very nice sounding verb just after it, which would be exceptionally derogatory. Thank you for the plus, Megha. I'm sure all of you have seen this before. But that's a bias I struggle to break. And the last one, actually, and I've sometimes is this whole thing about carrying just being very apologetic about having a career and having to justify it. I don't think that bias seems to break, and it's very common, I think, more than anywhere in Indian women, which is you're always justifying, saying, you know what, I'm great at work, but I'm also a great mother and I'm also a great wife, and you then find forums to tell the world that you're not bad at it, right? Not important. That's your personal life. Everybody turns up like they do in their personal life. So that's a bias that I think a lot of people are breaking, but it's a mental model which is attuned towards the larger percentage of the population. So it will take a while to break that bias. But I think just being unapologetic about wanting a career, having a career, respecting a career, agnostic to where, who works from, in what stage, is very important. I think that's the bias that I've seen partially broken, not there yet. But I guess everything comes when it comes.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Moving on, Shahnaz, next one's for you. What advice do you have for leaders looking to grow, either as entrepreneurs or key members of the companies that they work for?
Okay, so I've seen a lot of people who often give up before they've started. The moment they have, there's a hurdle that is thrown their way, or a bias that comes uh, to them. And I think, the biggest advice is don't give up. You're there for a reason. You're following your own life path. You know you're good at whatever you want to do. Just don't give up, and don't listen to bullies, and don't listen to naysayers, and don't listen to detractors. Just stay on your path. So long as you're aligned to whatever you want to do, and it's like bringing about common good, and you know that it's all positive, then I think that's one very big thing that I would want to tell people, whether they're entrepreneurs or leaders. Um, I would also say, and I would encourage people to take this seriously, which is stay out of politics. I mean, wherever you have human beings, you have politics, because there are a lot of insecurities. I mean, all of us have possibly faced it in the past. Like when I grew up in my career, I was on the fast track, and people don't like it when you succeed. And this is not about people who are only women or only men. I mean, all genders don't like it, or they don't like to see people succeed. And you need to just like be very focused, put your head down, do your work, and stand for what's right for yourself, because no one's going to sing that tune for you. You have to sing it for yourself. That's like extremely important. And be strong. Like, there's no need to get into politics. There's no need to like fan someone's insecurities because they may be more senior to you or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm picking up from one of the things that I really resonate with what Archana said. Like, often you'll be called aggressive when you're being assertive. You couldn't care to hell if people say that
Oh,
to you,
hell.
because you know the difference between assertive and what is aggressive. And sometimes
Last
if you
one.
have to make a point, yeah, if you have to make a point and stand your ground, then so be it. I mean, the other side needs to also respect that. And I keep saying the other side being, they could be women or they could be men. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are, I mean, a lot of the genders at an overall level have a lot of biases. It's not about just women or just men. I think like over time, I've realized the need to also self-love, which means that, work is 24 hours. and we're constantly at it. And like, I mean, obviously the startup world, the 7 years or whatever, 6.5 years, you're thinking the brand all the time, and you're sleeping, you're waking up, because there's so much to do, right? And it's very exciting, and you're doing it because you love it, not because someone's telling you to do it, right? But yeah, I mean, down the line, I picked up like a slip disc because I was slouching over my computer. I didn't even realize it. Or I picked up a frozen shoulder because of some postural problem or whatever. So I think don't take your health for granted. Uh, Take that time out for yourself and for the family. I know it's difficult and it sounds very glib if I say it, but like try, take that 1 hour off for a walk or yoga or whatever it is, and give back to yourself. And the only other thing I would want to tell everybody, which is entrepreneurs and individuals, is a lot of people are still not embracing digital, and they're still reluctant because they are worried or they don't know what's on the other side. And it's the world has made it out that there's an offline world and there's an online world. I mean, there are no two worlds. But the fact of the matter is that the people who've not taken on digital still are giving up on an opportunity by not being in a particular world. So take on digital. There's no better way to learn it than to dig your teeth into it and pick it up on the go. And if anyone needs any help with digital, then I think there's this entire panel of 6 bright women who can help you along your path. Thank you.
Awesome. I love the cheering that's happening in this group. Awesome. Uh, Moving on, next one for you, Megha. What is your opinion on the emphasis given to improving diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
Sure. I'm actually a very strong believer of diversity and inclusion. And honestly, I believe in diversity in a bigger way. It's not just about male, female. It's also about having different education, for example, different backgrounds, for example, different cultures, for example. I think sometimes a lot of us start becoming a little tunneled and only think about women versus men, but there are so much more to it. And why is it important? If you think about a leader, I think a lot of us have touched upon it. One of the big things for us is to set up that big, audacious goal, give that vision as to where the team should be headed. And for that, a very strong problem solving, for that, a very good thinking from all aspects is very important. And a well-rounded thinking happens only when you have a diverse set of perspectives coming in, when you're being challenged, when you're ensuring that there are no blind spots. And that happens only when you have a diverse set of thinking. So as I said, and sure, gender or females is one extension of it, but diversity overall is very, very important. Second, I also feel, and this is probably my bias for women coming in now, but I feel that mentorship and coaching are very important. We've all spoken about how important is team. And I feel that women in general, and a lot of research has been done now, which has actually proven that women do have higher EQ, they do have a lot more higher self-awareness, and they do lead with people first sort of mindset, which automatically lends really well to these qualities of mentorship and coaching, which is very critical for a leader. So yeah, I mean, because of these things, I truly believe that having a well-rounded, diverse, sort of inclusive group is very important for any company.
Awesome. Fantastic. Moving on, Divya, what are some of the biggest lessons as a leader with influence? Do you face any barriers to your aspirations?
I don't really. Actually, I haven't ever faced a bias to a particular situation, or, I'm sure women out there do face bias. I think the only bias that I face and I feel is at times that when I'm really assertive about a certain point, the team or somebody might actually think, oh, is she being too hyper? And probably a man would not be considered the same way. Have my seniors ever taken a bias to the fact that she can't do this because it's not a job for women? No, I have never really faced it, but that also probably belongs to the fact that I have always delivered, right? So I think it's also what you put out on the table is going to make people judge you. I think as a professional, it has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. If I'm able to turn around things, if I'm able to turn around a faltering business, I mean, I started my journey, for example, at Old Balaji as just a vice president marketing. Today, I head marketing, then I head revenue, which is direct as well as partnership revenue. Today, I also handle analytics, right? It's been my 4 years of journey here. Nobody has really stopped me in the system. These are the opportunities I have taken upon myself. I've grabbed those opportunities and I've said, hey, give me a chance. Let me prove it to you that I can turn this around for you. And then let's chat. I was given all the opportunities. So I will never ever say that, there was a bias against the fact that I was a woman. So I think for a leader to be a true leader, it's very critical that you're able to turn around things and you're able to prove to the team, because there are times I do get pushbacks from my team saying nahi hoga, right? So I say, okay, no problem, let me prove this to you, this can be done, and after that let's have a conversation. And I've done those at times, single-handedly gone down, rolled up my sleeves, done that. I've always been a leader. So no, I don't think there's been bias. The only bias I think the industry, and that's globally, not just India, I think women are paid about 15-20% lesser than the men for the same designation, same job. And let's face it, women have to work harder to prove themselves, right? So these are the two things I wish that would change. So I think the answer, the solution lies in putting simply proof of the concept on the table. Once you've done that proof of the concept on the table, which can be numerically elucidated, and you can prove to the people that here are the numbers, now let's talk, everything is smooth from there, right? So of course, that's not easy, right? You have to put those numbers on the table, whether it's direct subscriptions. For example, this year, we'll do about almost 4.5 million subscriptions on Old Balaji. And I'm not counting people who watch us for free, right? And I'm talking about an era where when I joined them, they were just 2.5 lakh subscriptions. But it takes burning yourself to make that happen, right? To prove to the teams that it can be done, to prove to the management that this can be done. I actually came and walked in and I said, you know what, let's not talk views. What are you guys talking to me? Let's talk who paid to watch your content. Give me that responsibility. So initially they were extremely skeptical and they said, are you willing to take that target? Are you willing to turn out and say, you're going to make people pay? I said, yes. Because that's the only way to sustain the business. Why would you even walk up to a senior person and ask how many views? Are you kidding me? So that is the challenge I took, and I've proven year on year, and that's why I've been given responsibilities. So no bias. Prove yourself and take responsibilities. Why not?
Absolutely. I'm just loving the energy with this group. Moving on, Shehnaz, for you, were you able to navigate the power structures early in your career, or was it much later? Or did you even face them in the first place?
I think early on for me, perhaps. But I don't think it was, okay, let me just put it this way. When you're on a fast track, because you set your objectives for yourself as a professional. And I always tell my teams, I mean, through time, that the pace of your success, you set for yourself. No one sets it for you. An organization will give you goals and they'll give you KRAs, KPIs, OKRs, whatever you want to call them. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something and achieve something and get somewhere, then it's up to you. You drive the pace, right? So obviously, I was not someone to be very, extremely patient and wait for 3 years to move to one level or 5 years to move to another. I was made a little differently, so that did cause a lot of dizzy. Not so much with the leaders, because the leaders recognized, the talent or whatever, and so promoted me and threw me perhaps into a lot of tricky situations, maybe to test me, which was perfectly fine. But so, like, for example, when I started out at Ogilvy and I started out in Calcutta, and Calcutta in the east of India, I mean, it's a difficult market, whichever way you look at it. I made it to managing partner in 7 years of working, and then I said, okay, kafi ho gaya, let me move to another city, and then moved to Bangalore and did a lot of those kinds of things. But um, let's just say that over time, the promotions didn't come without my having to put up a very strong front about deserving it. So sometimes, in the early years when they call you junior, that's a bias, by the way. Oh, the bacha hai, to junior hai, to theek hai na. Like let them grow a couple of levels. It's okay. The moment you start making people feel a little shaky about their own positions, for God knows what insecurities they have, because you are not taking their space. You're just making space for yourself. Then it becomes a little tricky, and then you have to keep cutting through the nonsense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I answered your question very directly, but
No, no.
perhaps at the start.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. I said, I love the statement you made that you're making space for yourself. You're not threatening anyone with your presence. So I think it's very, very powerful. Thank you for that. And with that, we come to our last question for you, Mridmai. Past few years have been great levelers. What will you carry forward to 2022? And what are the key learnings from this period of uncertainty?
Sure. So yeah, I think the last at least 5 to 7 years have been great levelers in terms of be it the opportunities that have been created, the number of the pay differences, or the amount of openings that you have in terms of being able to even look at creating career growth for yourself versus like some of the fights that people have had to put in like much earlier, say 10, 12 years before that. In terms of how this has panned out and what will change for 2022, I think the biggest impact has come from the internet and the ecosystem that the internet has created. And I know Shehnaaz also mentioned how working in a startup changes us as professionals. And I think not only as a professional, but just the power of the internet and its ecosystem has just created so much more access and the ability to create impact, no matter where you're based, what pedigree or what college you have graduated from, whether you live in a family with a family in like a tier 2 city, or you live in a metro city where you can actually go to work. I think it finally comes down to what is the value you can add, what is the impact that you can create on the business or on the user. And these opportunities now, especially with a lot of organizations being open to remote first and hybrid work models, has definitely increased the amount of like actually given more opportunities to decrease that disparity that was earlier present, even in terms of a level playing field, right? So you can now be a young mother, sit at home and still be able to really work long hours without having to bother about getting to office, getting back, taking the whole time off. And I've had people like that in my teams at that point, and I'm seeing similar things in my team now, and I can see how much more time they can give. And I just, from a level playing field, I think this entire ecosystem that has gotten created is great. um, Obviously the other one I mentioned was earlier was around creating like cross-functional virtual collaboration that we've been able to build, and we need to continue to build in terms of engagement within teams across organizations. And definitely something that I have picked up as a leader in the last 2 years, and something that I will continue to build for even going forward. Definitely something that is extremely important. So like that's the kind of challenge that I am right now facing with my team. And this is only going to get bigger and larger. Maybe at some point we'll have people working from abroad as well, right? Like in a different time zone. So how do you deal with that, for example? So yeah, definitely building cross-functional collaboration in a very virtual working world is the second. And I think the third has been more around a reinforcement of something we knew before, and more from a women bias perspective, is that age is no barrier, right? Like even in this pandemic, we have seen the likes of a really young CEO like Whitney Wolf taking Bumble public, and then we have seen the likes of Falguni Nair doing the same in India with Nykaa. So it doesn't matter where you are from, what background you are from. It's about what you want to create, whether you're able to deliver that user and business impact at the same time, while being able to create a large scale organization to drive benefit. And I think these have been the major learnings which I will continue to take forward. Some of them are in progress as I'm learning them as well. Some of them will continue to evolve on. Yeah.
That's great. And some of us have joined leadership roles during the pandemic. So cheers to that. Thank you so much, Mrinmai, for sharing your views. And we have Ronan in the house. And to so the surprise segment that we spoke about earlier was coming up for you guys is a rapid fire, a round which is going to be hosted by Ronan. So and I promise it's all good. Thanks, Ronan, for joining in, and over to you. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Sorry to barge in a while back. I didn't realize when I was supposed to show up, but how's the conversation been?
I guess it's
Thumbs
been
up?
good seeing all women. So good to have a man. Let's roast you. That'll be fun.
Roast. It's time to roast.
Hmm.
All right. Let's have a little bit of fun because by the way, if any of the questions are good, if I'll take credit for it. If they're bad, I'll hand them to Ritu because she thought of them. Maybe the other way around. So let's this is the rapid fire round, and basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call your name and ask you a question, and then this is kind of random. So let's get to it. So Archana, if you were to travel back in time, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
Whoa. Start messing with people early.
Start messing with people early. Love that.
Good one.
So Mega, if you could trade your lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
My son. He gets to eat all the candy, sleep whenever he wants, watch whatever he wants, gets to jump in the pool, have parties. Like, it's as free as possible.
And how old is your son, if I may ask?
4.
4. Okay. Sounds like my 12-year-old. Good news is they don't change much. So Rumai, did I say it correctly?
Yeah, Mrunmai.
Mrunmai, sorry. So this is a little bit of a complicated one. What's the most valuable life lesson that you've learned and from who?
I think I learned my most valuable life lesson from my parents, which was around never giving up and dealing with ambiguity. And it comes from the fact that my family was actually stranded in Rwanda during the genocide in 1992. And we got back to India, restarted everything. And I think that was something as a 6-year-old kid I was terrified of. But the way my parents dealt with like a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old daughter in Africa, brought us back and restarted everything like nothing had gone wrong. I think that is something that is etched in my memory, though it was such a young age that now I just can't give up. I'm like, if they did that, I should be able to do anything, right? Like, that is too big a thing that they did with 2 kids. Yeah.
This is amazing, and I don't mean to bring a somber note, but I think this is the history continues to repeat itself, and we're seeing this happen in Ukraine and Russia, and just like it's very sad. And even while I haven't been a refugee, my family has been refugee 2 times over. So this is just yeah, the world is doesn't learn. Divya, hello.
Hi.
I'm going to ask you a question that I asked you once before, and I know the answer. An alternate profession that you can see yourself in. Let's see if the answer is the same.
I keep changing my answers. You can't hold me down to the earlier answer. But I think the alternative profession, I think if I had my way, would have been probably to be a designer, maybe. I don't know what I answered you earlier, but I would have loved to design stuff, right? It could be clothes, it could be shows, it could be concepts, but it could be sketching. There's a creative side to me, which unfortunately the MBA degree and then the business piece just squashed completely. So the alternative would have been to design and create. I would have liked that.
Yes, I believe on the Epicenter, you said you wanted to be a fashion designer.
See, I got it right.
You are spot on and consistent. So Shanaz, if there is an emoji or an emoticon that captures your frame of mind most times, what is that? And let's see if we can find it in the reactions.
Okay, let me look for it. I'm always laughing. That one, either this one, or I don't think I can find. I'm always like in that roll over, roll on the floor, laughing zone. I don't think I want to take life too seriously. I think people take themselves a little too seriously. And despite all the hard work and the stress and everything that you go through, I'm always looking for a bit of a laugh through the day. I even end my day with a Mr. Bean or Friends or some such little episode, because then I can have dreams of me laughing.
I love that.
Thank you.
We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously, should we? So, Megha, what is the most valuable thing in your possession? You can't use your 4-year-old son again.
I was thinking, but then I thought it would be a repetition. Most valuable thing. I'm generally not materialistic, so I'm just thinking my passport.
The passport.
Yeah.
Have you used it much often?
Yeah, I love traveling. I usually run out of the pages of my passport.
Do you know I had 2 years and 22 days gap between the time that I had to use my passport. And my last trip that I took before I recently traveled was actually to Bangalore.
Oh, next time you're here, just give us a buzz.
Absolutely. I can't wait to meet Ritu. So Runmai, here's another question for you. If you had just one day to accomplish all that mattered to you, God, you're getting these difficult questions. How would you spend it?
One day accomplishing all the things that matter to me.
Yes. So kind of like that, maybe if I could rephrase it, like if this was your last day on this planet.
No,
I
stick
would
to the early one. This song sounds very sad.
Yeah.
So I would I love traveling as well, right? So all kind of countries, places unexplored. So whatever is left, I'll just do this whole apparition from one country to another, try to go across the world in that one day, whatever else I want to visit, and go do that. Essentially disappear here, appear in another country, in another time zone, like breakfast in South America and lunch in Europe and then dinner in Australia, kind of a thing. And then, yeah, that's my last day. Essentially, maybe dessert, and then I end.
Yeah, I would fly against the time zone so that I would get more time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So Shanaz, is there a quirk about you that not many people know of?
Is there a quirk about me that not anyone
many
knows?
That do you like to
Okay, so I've picked up this quirk. I don't know if it's a quirk, but ever since we had the first day of lockdown, okay, the first day, I decided to walk 10,000 steps every day. Okay, irrespective of what happens in life. So for the past 2.5 years or whatever, I've just been walking 10,000 steps every day, come hail or whatever, rain. And it's a little bit of an obsessive thing now, because even if I'm out for dinner, and I get a little bit of a free time and I haven't completed my steps, and you'll see me wandering around, away from the team and just doing that walk. And I think people think I've gone a little crazy. Some of them have also suggested that I turn back the clock on the Apple Watch to cheat on the timing, because you can turn the time back and gain time to make up your steps. But yeah, I don't know if it's a quirk, but yeah.
Well,
it's a bit
how
of
many of how many of you also follow that same quirk?
a super.
That's it. We're all in the same boat here, aren't we? Yes. So, Archana, I have another question for you. Is there a superpower that you'd like to have?
No, yeah, I already think I have all the superpowers I need. I don't need any more. Pretty happy with my superpowers currently.
Excellent. That's we should always be satisfied with what we have. And Megha, I have another question for you. What is your
Okay.
guilty pleasure?
Of course, I have to give a version that I can speak about here. So maybe let's talk about ice cream.
Ice skating.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Any particular kind of ice cream that you like?
Sure, chocolate is good.
Just plain chocolate?
Megha, I think we were interested in the other answer. This is too
I
safe.
know.
I'm just looking for
For
the
that-
other
for
answer.
that-
Yeah. I think it's not working here.
For that, we need to sync offline, ladies. I don't think this recorded session is for that.
Like I can leave now if you'd like.
Ronan, it's the red button, recording button, which is the problem, not you.
Okay. Well, that
Yeah, chocolate ice cream.
right. We love that question so much, Ritu, that we're going to be stealing it for the epicenter, by the way. So thank you. Divya, are you ready? This one is not an easy one. 3 things on your bucket list.
Travel, travel, travel.
To where, to where, to where?
All the globe, all the cultures. So around the globe, meet all the cultures, sample all kinds of food, but since I'm a vegetarian kind of food. So, for example, when I went to Barca, the only thing I really wanted to have was their vegetarian food. They were obviously very upset with me that I was not sampling their seafood paella and all that. But yes, these are 3 things that I want to do. I think I was born to travel. Unfortunately, I am now working, which is not good. But I have to work because I have to pay those bills. So yeah, travel.
May you travel to exciting places soon and eat great vegetarian food. And when
Yes.
you come to Bangkok, I will take you to an amazing vegetarian restaurant.
Please don't forget meeting all the exciting people and learning about cultures, because that's my high. That's the only high I want, I think. Yes, and when I'm in Bangkok, I'm going to give you a shout.
Great, great. So, Moonmai, what does success mean to you?
Success to me actually means only one thing, which is where you have left your mark, right? So it doesn't matter if you have a goal of X crores or as a top line or a bottom line goal that you have to meet or whatever. Eventually, if you meet a 99% or 105% on your goal, no one remembers. It's what you leave behind as a legacy is what defines whether you were a successful leader or not, or a successful part or a part of a successful organization or not. And that is just how I also am wired to think of when I think of my professional work, career, or how I build my teams, as to what is the mark I'm leaving behind, what is the legacy I'm leaving behind when I get out of a role or when I get out of an organization. Yeah, that to me is a good mark of success.
I actually do love that a lot for me, and forgive me for answering the question. It's the mark that you leave on people, right? The lasting impact that you do to help people in their lives and their careers. And I think that all of us we're at the stage that we can really make a significant impact on people's futures. And this is what it's all about right now. And so going back to Shanaz, and sorry, this is a little bit of a difficult one as well. Is there any hidden secret talents that you have that no one else knows about?
Secret hidden talent. I don't know if okay, so I love singing. I don't sing in public. I've never trained as a singer, but I can sing a tune without cracking. And my partner and some of my friends and family keep saying that you should be less inhibited about singing to the world. So yeah, I mean, I took to Smule during the COVID days and sang my heart out into songs. But yeah, yeah, maybe singing. I am actually a very spiritual person, not religious, but spiritual. I guess my upbringing was also, I mean, mixed parentage. So there was no forced religion. We could do whatever it is that we wanted to. And I think, I mean, I practice Reiki every day. And for me, healing, whether it's a person or a situation or an event or whatever it is, I think for me that's extremely important. Just like to remain in this positive zone where there's no place for toxicity or negativity. I mean, and I mean, when I say that to some people, they think I'm a little cuckoo in my head. but but I do believe that there is this universe that can be tapped for positive energy. And for the few of us who may have trained in, like something like Reiki, it's basically tapping the universe to direct it to doing positive things. So it's not religious, it's not like against anything. Like I had instances of in my past where a colleague had come up and said, hey, fix my mother-in-law, she's really a pain for me. And I can't do that in Reiki. But what you can fix and what you can direct is positivity so that their friction reduces, stuff like that. So yeah, I think.
That's great. So Divya, this was kind of projected, but what is your favorite period in history for fashion?
1980s.
1980s.
I love
Wow.
this look. I love the shimmer and the shine. There is so much you can play around with. Bring it on. I used to love that bling. Yeah, so 1980s. I love the shiny disco balls and stuff like that. It's so cool. It's so cool. And it's coming back again. So yeah, one of those times was my favorite. So yeah, on that note, Ronan, I would like to actually drop off. I've got a meeting happening and I don't want to interrupt the session. Please, lovely meeting all the ladies. And it was great to chat with you again, Ronan. Thank you, Ritu. Thank you guys for having me. Take care. Have fun always. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Divya. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, Divya. And we're on the last question right now, by the way. So we'll end this with Archana. One uniqueness about being a leader.
Sometimes heart before head. Rarely, but heart before head. I think empathy. That's my go-to weapon. Because numbers, as everybody said, right? We'll figure a way to do them and they'll happen. So yeah, that.
Heart before head. I love that. Thank you. That's such a beautiful way to end. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Ron.
Ronan.
Thank you too.
Oh, very good to meet.
Thanks. Just a quick one. Although I feel that, thanks, Ronan, firstly, for the rapid fire. I wish I had a gift hamper, but I do have a gratitude hamper. So thank you very much for sharing your personal experiences and career journeys with us today and for being the leaders that you are, always constantly challenging the status quo and breaking the bias. Thank you so much for joining the Power Hour.